There are times where really challenging things happen to us, or really bad things, or really stressful scenarios. And believe it or not, there could be a higher purpose for this that's bigger than you, that's bigger than us. I know some of you don't kind of follow this line of thought, but just hear me out. You never really know. I know it's for some people, it's they're a bit more, I guess, more focused on their responsibility in the scenario. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes you do contribute, but again, there might be a greater purpose for certain things that are happening to you. There is a true story, and I'm gonna use this. I'll use a biblical narrative. If any of you heard the story about Joseph, I'm gonna be more specific, right? Basically, he was the next to youngest. He was the youngest, or next to youngest. Basically, him and his younger brother were favored by his dad. The other brothers were jealous, and he had a dream. He shouldn't have discussed his dream. I guess he came off as arrogant because he said that he had a dream that they were basically sheaving. Sheaves, they collect like these grain stalks, and he had a dream that his rose up higher than theirs and theirs bowed down to his. He was already kind of a favored son, so they were already jealous, and this probably ticked them off a lot more. So they decided, they were kind of deliberate whether to kill him, and one of them was basically he talked him out of it, and he had him throw him down a well, and he was gonna come back and rescue him. But when he left, they basically pulled him out and they sold him to slave traders. I guess they sold him as a slave, and they tore up the robe that his dad gave him. They killed the goat, put blood on the goat, and told his dad, "Oh, we don't know what happened to him." So I think they implied that he was killed by a wild animal. I think that was the implication. So he gets sold as a slave, and he gets put in. He's sold to one of the Pharaoh of Egypt's generals, or one of his high officials, one of his officials. And he purchased Joseph, and he observed that Joseph was very focused, very spiritual. He was very disciplined, and he had a lot of integrity. So he promoted him among all the other slaves he had. He put him in charge of his household. And according to the story, he was attractive, he was well built. So his master's wife was lusting after him. And he can't catch a break. She's approaching him several times. The first time he says, "I can't do this. The master has been good to me. He's put me in charge of everything. I have access to everything. Why would I do that to him?" And he was very spiritual. He said, "Why would I do this wicked thing?" He says, "God can see everything." This woman was brazen to the point where there was one time she approached him. He was like, "God can see everything we do." She takes off her garment and throws it on a statue. It was one of their gods, one of the gods the Egyptians worshipped. And she's like, "There, now God can't see us. Now the God can't see us." I'm like, good grief. So this guy resists. I don't know how many times. I think it was several. Then, she really wanted him. So one day she just pulls his, he tried to run away from her another time, I think. The last time. And she pulled his garment from him. And I guess she didn't like rejection. So she told her husband, "So this slave you brought in, he tried to sleep with me." So basically she accused him of attempted rape. And he gets sent to prison. His master sends him to prison. Come to think of it, his master was named Potiphar. I think that maybe Potiphar suspected his wife was full of it. Only reason I say this, like, every man, every guy knows if your girlfriend, your wife, your fiance told you this, you'd want to kill that person, right? Like, you'd be enraged, especially when you have all that power. Like, to send him to jail, I think he might have suspected his wife was like cheating, loose, promiscuous, just throwing herself everywhere. He might have already known in the back of his head, but because it's a slave, he had to do something. Like, it would make him look bad if he didn't do anything, right? So just maybe by some chance he would say, okay, maybe I'll just send him to jail, because I can't imagine him just saying, okay, he attacked you, I'm gonna send him to jail. Like, I don't know, most men would do way worse. So I'm thinking he might have known what his wife was up to. Anyway, so Joseph goes to jail. He can't catch a break. He's sold by his brothers, his jealous brothers. He was falsely accused of rape, attempted rape, by his boss's wife. So he goes to prison, and he sees these two servant of Pharaoh's in jail with him. I don't know, they ticked off Pharaoh, so I guess he threw them in jail. I think one guy was the cupbearer. The other guy was, what was he? The baker. And when he was in jail, again, they noticed he was very disciplined. Had a lot of integrity, so they put him in charge of stuff. So they put him in charge of taking care of, the Pharaoh's servants, right, in jail. I don't know how that system works, but it's interesting. So he's tending to the baker and the cupbearer, and they had dreams that troubled them, because I think back then people interpreted dreams. They try to predict the future, and from what they said, they couldn't find anyone to interpret it for them in jail. So Joseph tells them that, well, dream interpretations are God's to interpret. They only come from God. So he was like, but let me hear your dreams. What are they about? So the baker says that he's carrying bread, and I think bird comes to carry the bread away. And then the cupbearer, I don't know specific. I know he said that he was carrying grapes, and him and the Pharaoh put grapes back in the cup and produce wine. I don't know if I'm telling this correctly. I don't know. There's something to the effect that he was putting the grapes and wine into the cup for the Pharaoh. Him and the Pharaoh both. So I think Joseph prays and asks God for interpretation of the dreams. So after he gets interpretation from God, he tells them, hey, so for the baker, he tells him, this means that you serving bread to Pharaoh and the birds coming and take the bread. He's saying that the baker is basically gonna die. He's gonna be executed. And actually, before he told the baker, he told the cupbearer that this means that your position is going to be restored after you get out of here, or in 3 days. And then the baker, when the cupbearer told the baker that his dream was interpreted and he'd receive his position back, then the baker comes to Joseph. So that they came in that order: first the cupbearer, then the baker. The baker says, okay, so you interpreted his dream. And the baker's thinking, because the cupbearer got a good interpretation, he might get one. And that's when he found out he was going to die. So 3 days pass, and then his dreams come to fruition. But the cupbearer forgot about Joseph for like 2 more years, right? And at that time, I think Pharaoh had a dream. He saw like 7 fat, healthy cows and 7 skinny, emaciated cows. And then he saw 7 healthy grain, 7 stalks of healthy grain, and he saw 7 like wilted grain. And he's troubled by the dream. Nobody can interpret it. And that's when the cupbearer remembers. He's like, oh, When I was in jail, there was a guy who interpreted my dream for me, and he said I would have my position back. So Pharaoh asked his servants to send for Joseph. So Joseph, again, he prays for interpretation after the Pharaoh tells him his dream, and Joseph says, it's pretty straightforward dream. The 7 cows will represent 7 years of prosperity. The seven healthy cows. The 7 emaciated cows represent 7 years of famine. Same with the healthy grain and the healthy unhealthy stalks, the wilted ones. So after that interpretation, Pharaoh's like doesn't know what to do. Joseph tells him, what you need to do is have some of your smartest men, all your, I guess his top accountants, advisors, assign someone to be in charge of storing all the grain during the prosperous time, right? Or basically storing things during prosperous time. That way, when they store all the grain, I guess all the other animals, whatever they can ration those things during the famine. Famine. I'm getting tongue-tied today. Maybe needed some water. Anyway, so the Pharaoh says, since you interpreted the dream, I'm going to give that responsibility to you, right? So basically, Joseph becomes Pharaoh's second in command. After all he went through, being sold by his brothers, being falsely accused of sexual assault, enduring time in prison, he becomes second in command. Okay? Again, this is not, what I'm not trying to say, it's not about him exactly, but the scenario surrounding him. After he becomes second in command, the famine hits. He's in charge of storing grain. He's storing grain. So during the famine, his brothers travel to Egypt because they're about to be starving, them and their dad, right? I don't want to make the story too long, but he runs into his brothers, but he pretends that he knows who they are, but they don't recognize him. And maybe I can't make it shorter, I don't know. So all of them came except his youngest brother. Him and his youngest brother have the same mother. The other brothers, they're from a different mother. And he's just curious about his youngest brother. So he accuses them. He's just pretending this whole time. He accuses his brothers of being spies to come spy on Egypt. And he says if they're telling the truth, because he asked them where their father is, asked him how many people are in their family. They told him about how they're one of their brothers dead, which is him. They told him about their youngest brother and them. I'm trying to remember how many of them were there. Were there 7? Or there's more than 7? I can't remember. So basically, he tells them, if you're telling the truth, then go bring your younger brother back here so I can see. And he gives them food to go take to their families back in. I think they're staying in a place called Canaan, right? He hasn't revealed himself to them yet. And they bring the younger brother back. Actually, he put silver in their bags, and they're all terrified. They're thinking, why is there silver in our bag? So their father tells them to take the silver back, and he adds more money to go buy more food, right? And they told their father they have to take their brother back, or he's going to. Actually, he kept one of the brothers with him. One of the brothers named Simeon. He kept him with him, and he pretended to bind him up or put him in jail or something until they come back and bring the youngest one. He basically wants to see his youngest brother, who he was close to. And he wanted to test his brothers to see how they've changed, because he's thinking, okay, will they bring him back and sell him as a slave as well? So they begged their father. Their father's paranoid because he was really, Joseph and Benjamin, the youngest, were like his favorite too. So the father's like, I already lost one of my youngest, and am I gonna lose this one too? So basically, he sends the youngest brother reluctantly, and they go there with him, and he sends them back again, except he tells a servant to put a silver cup in his youngest brother's bag, Benjamin. So this is where the test comes in. He's like, he tells the servant to act like they stole the cup, And he says, whichever bag the cup is in, that's going to be my slave. I guess he wanted to see if they were going to give the brother up to be the slave. But this time, one of the older ones, I think his name was Judah. Was it Judah? I really got to read this story again. Judah says, I'm responsible for him. Just take me as a slave. I promised my father that I would bring him back. So Joseph was kind of moved. He's kind of moved by the fact that they didn't sell this brother this time, and he really missed them. He was really emotional, and after that, he revealed who he was to his brothers. And to make a long story short, he had the family move to Egypt and live in a prosperous section of Egypt. The entire family, all of his brothers and their families, he forgave them. And to tie this to what I said, he went through all of this, right, to become second in charge of Egypt. And this saved his entire family, and it saved all of their descendants, right? What if he hadn't gone through this? They may have starved to death. I know, again, this is what I mean by some things happening to you maybe bigger than you. I know some of you taking this story said, "Oh, this maybe it's full of crap," but for those of you who may see it as some insight, think about whenever you're going through something, right? Whatever you're going through, there may be a bigger purpose. And it does not always mean it's going to last forever, or it's going to last all your life. And sometimes the purpose is bigger than you. Maybe you're serving a bigger purpose. Maybe it's going to affect other people. Maybe it will benefit other people. We can't always focus on what benefits us. I think we've all become so selfish, and I'm not saying you should look for some painful situation. I'm not going to one extreme. You're looking for a painful situation to say maybe it's a bigger purpose to help other people. I'm just saying, if things happen, just stay positive, keep a good attitude, deal with people logically and fairly. And again, it's not saying you're going to become a king or in charge of anywhere, but the purpose of you going through that may benefit a whole community, right? And it's a greater purpose. You serve a greater purpose. We all may serve a greater purpose, or maybe all of our collective experiences together in trials and challenges may help someone or help a whole community. I'm just saying, look on the glass half full, not specifically for you as an individual, but those you may care about deeply, right? Or some people you may care about in the future. Sometimes what you go through or what you experience may benefit somebody you will meet in the future and help that person. And in turn, that may help another community, right? It's, again, make it not always about you. Think about other people. I know it's hard to, because we all want to experience the blessings and the good side, but think about others and how whatever you're dealing with may help the next person. Anyway, I'm going to end right there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me clear my throat. Feel free to send an email. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening.